Security and access. This is a very crucial settings you have to consider in your portal. This setting gives room for members to gain access to your portal and also what they can do on your portal, especially if those members are considered managers. That means people that can manage one or two information on your portal. Let's get right in. In the security and access settings, there are three sets of information you can set up. You have the access. That means this section allows you to limit access to different group of individuals that can use this portal. For instance, you can see here, these are students, these are educators, these are parents, these are managers. Managers are more like the non-academic staff of your school, like the headmaster, headmistress, chancellor. Then educators are your teaching staffs. Mostly in some school, you have teachers, mentors, trainees, lecturers. Okay, those are educators. In our platform, we use the word educator to classify them. We have students. For students, you can grant access to different status of students. For instance, every member have a status. Those status can be classified into two. We have the active status, we have the inactive. For the active status, we have the active, away, not cleared. Then we have the inactive. The inactive, we have the status called inactive itself. Graduates, on leave, tired, resigned, sacked, suspended, expelled, left, deceased. Those that probably have access to this portal should be those that are active, away, not cleared, and are probably graduates. So you can add other status. For instance, maybe those that are suspended can still be gaining access. You can add that. For educators, we only allow mostly active and away. You can make changes as you like. You also have parents and managers, same settings. On the right hand side, by default, when you set up your portal, every student or every member, when they are inactive, within 5 minutes, the portal will log them out automatically. So you can increase this number. As you can see in mine here, I place here 20 minutes. That means every 20 minutes of inactivity, the portal should log them out. This is a very important and it's very good. So your account don't get compromised by others who probably don't have access, especially if you're working with a public computer. For students or members that are suspended from using this system, when you suspend them, by default, the suspension lasts 1 hour. You can change this to 365 days in terms of hours, or 6 months, 6 weeks, or a month. So depending on what your suspension look like in your school. Lastly, there are some members you probably want to ban from your school, maybe because their account have been compromised by hackers, or probably you don't want them to gain access. They probably may be active folks, but they shouldn't gain access to the portal. So all you need to do is to provide their email addresses or their account ID. In this case, we want to ban this email from accessing portal. Then you can add as many of them, or you can use their user ID to ban them. The next set of information, very crucial, is the ID that can be used to create each of the accounts. So before adding students or adding members in your portal, you have to be sure that this is the ID pattern you really want to use, especially when you're trying to add students. So in the ID tab here, on the left hand side, will show you the list of school levels you have created so far. On the right hand side here will give you the list of student groups or members group and the ID pattern. That means how should their ID look like. And take note, when you add a member, you must assign them a user ID, and that ID cannot be changed. By default, for managers, parents, educators, they share the same settings, meaning that their ID can be auto-generated by the system if you do not provide them when you are trying to add them to the platform, or you can manually add their ID as you're creating each manager or parents or educator in an Excel spreadsheet or online. You have to manually provide their user ID. If you do not provide, the system would automatically generate an ID for them, a bunch of non-coordinated codes. And when an ID is set for any member, it cannot be changed. So by default, you cannot change the ID pattern for educators, parents, and managers. But you can change ID pattern for students. In students, we provide you with 3 options. You can use what they call a no pattern, which is there by default. It will apply either an auto-generated ID, or you have room to enter your ID for students. or since you're dealing with a group of students which can range from 100 to 200, even to 1000 or more, you might want to use your own pattern. Okay, for instance, in my pattern, I can say, okay, in my primary school, we want to use PRY/S student slash. Maybe if that is my ID pattern, then that will be applied to primary school. Same thing too, if you don't want to use your own pattern, you can use system pattern. So NetSAP comes with its own system pattern. The system pattern in this case now will work with your school ID slash the current session you are currently working with slash the role of each member. If it's a student, it is STU. If it's educator, it is EDU. Then if it's parent, is PAR. If it's manager, is MAN. So how do you set up an ID pattern for students? You have to select the school level. In this case, I'm trying to set up ID pattern for primary school. Once I select that, if there were already existing ID pattern, the system would show it here. As you can see here, primary after selection showed an ID pattern, which is a custom or which is a my pattern ID pattern. I created one called PRY/STU/this. That means whenever I'm trying to add members and when I don't create ID, the system will use this as a pattern for the prefix. Same thing applicable if I uncheck this and check the next person here. You can see here I'm still using my pattern, and this time I'm having NUR/STU. So this will be used as prefix. Lastly, in this section here, if you scroll down below, you see the ID number padding character. For instance, in most schools, let's assume we're using my pattern or we're using system pattern. This ID number padding character are what should be the number of characters that should be applied if you want your ID to be of a particular length. For instance, in most schools, if the first person will be number 1, the school will want to use a padding of 000 and 1. The next person will be 0002, 0003. You can change the character to use, maybe if not zeros, you can use AAA or you can use any other character. You can also define how many of these characters should be used, whether it's 2 or 3 or 5, as many as you want. Once you do that, you are okay. As you try to set your ID, you will also have the privilege to look at how many of the school levels have been completed. Lastly, let's go to the privileges. In the privileges, this is very powerful because this service now, currently I'm logged in as an admin, as you can see here, and the administrator of this school. That means I have super right to do anything on all the modules on this portal here. So, but most of the time, the admin may want to subclass this job or responsibilities depending on the administration of your school. Your school may have so many managers, for instance, those handling nursery schools, primary schools, those handling secondary school, those handling fee, those handling different aspects of this work, maybe those sending bulk SMSs, probably those managing your website, or those handling academic work like report generation and the rest. So you don't want to be doing that all alone, especially if you have staff or people that handle this role. So first off, you have to go to the member section, add those members. In this case, now you want to add managers. Once you add managers, and you have to assign their role for them by checking this, which will give you room to pick their title or their title prefix. Then you give them useful title. Now, for instance, assuming I pick a title, say cashier, that means I'm trying to add a member or a manager that probably may be able to collect fee, record fee payment, but not be able to approve receipts. If I use a bursar, for instance, now I'm trying to add a financial manager that can have privileges to not just collect fee, but also approve receipts, delete receipts, send mail, and all of that. If I should pick, say, for instance, someone that deals with academic work, for instance, director of school, or let's assume head of school, or head of faculty, or head of departments, or headmistress, or headmasters, it probably means that they'll be handling 1 or 2 academic work, maybe be able to approve grades, be able to generate results, and probably print it out, or probably send mails to the parents. You have to be careful when you pick this title. When you go back to your settings, that means you have to know what can they do on your portal. As you can see here on the left hand side, the managers will be listed there, their name and their title in bracket, and on the right hand side you will see the different modules. Then by the right hand side are the privileges that you can use. So far you have about 5 privileges in NetSAP. One of them is the view privilege. The view privilege allow you to assign managers the access to view these modules. For instance, maybe to view news, to view gallery, to view classes, to view subjects, to view grading system, to view grading records. Okay, you can use the view privilege to assign such role. You also have the add privilege. The add privilege allow members or managers to be able to add information. The edit privilege allow members to be able to edit or update or make changes to information on these different modules. Then the remove privilege can give you room to be able to delete information or records in different modules. Then the last one, which is very, very crucial and it carries more weight than every other privileges here, is the approve. The approve privilege, you want to use it only when you want a member to have a very powerful role of approving work in your school. For instance, each of these modules have certain set of predefined privileges. For instance, this first one called add-ons here can only view and edit. Then you have app settings. App settings is this environment we are in here, maybe to set your session anthem and other kinds of settings here. And what we have only is view settings and also edit settings. If you scroll down to information like grading records, like your behavior records, your subject records, your attendance records, and any kind of grading or grade records at all. As you can see, beyond having view, add, edit, remove, we also have approve. For instance, after grades have been added by teachers or educators, the educators on their end will have to approve those grades on their end. But also again, the managers in charge of the school have privileges to approve. But very, very key that this information should be assigned to people that have privilege to approve grades, approve and unapprove. If we scroll down again, you see data. Data has to do with, for instance, final report, broadsheets, progress reports. For instance, let's say testimonials or transcript. We consider them as data information. As you can see here, beyond to view, edit, and remove, we have the approve. The approve here will give you right to approve final report before students can have access or parents can have access. It's very key, or be able to do promotion on broadsheets. So that's why you have the approve here. It will go to fee payments. In fee payments here, you have also approve. The approve here in this case now, for instance, after say records that has to do with receipts are created, you don't want to give anybody the privilege to approve receipts. Receipts should be confirmed by probably those in charge of finances, confirm if the money has been paid to accounts before you approve the receipt or approve any sort of invoice. So it's very crucial you know how to apply each of these roles or each of these privileges to the different set of members or managers. To do the assignment, you simply have to pick all managers you want to apply to, or you pick them one by one and apply the different privileges. As you can see, when I selected this manager, some of the privileges had been assigned already because this is a pre-existing account or a demonstration account. So you can tweak it to whatever you like. If you want to quickly move forward, you can simply use this button assuming to select all of them at once, or you can start dealing with them individually somewhere. This is how to assign privileges, and it's very crucial you know how to assign privileges, IDs, and access before you click save.